guys, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Kelsey and I am a first year 4th grade teacher in Florida. I'm so excited for today's video because I have partnered with Shakira at _ Saved by the Bell. I'll put her name here. And we decided to do a collab together, and I'm so excited to share it with you guys. So we posted on our Instagram sharing that we wanted to do a collab together. We wanted to do a Q&A video. Now the cool thing is that she's a 2nd year 4th grade teacher and I am a 1st year 4th grade teacher. So I'm sure 1st and 2nd year teachers have completely different perspectives on the school year. So we will both be answering 5 questions from the questions that we received on our Instagram. I will be answering them, of course, from the 1st year teacher perspective, and she'll be answering them in the 2nd year teacher perspective. So at the end of my video, I will be putting a link so that you can click directly and go watch Shakira's video on her channel and see what our different perspectives are. So I hope you enjoy this video. If you do, don't forget to like and subscribe, and let's get started. So I have all the questions on my laptop next to me. So first question is, what is one thing you would recommend a teacher should do over the summer? So one thing that I would recommend teachers do over the summer is sit down and really think about your procedures and routines that you want to implement. So that can be anything from how do they come in the morning, how do they hang their backpacks up, how do they get pencils, how do they come to the carpet, how do you transition? It's every little thing. And I have found multiple checklists on TPT where like teachers literally just put a list together of a bunch of things that you should be thinking about over the summer in order to start your first day of school. So what I have been doing is I've been taking that checklist and I've been going down one by one, just thinking about, okay, this is how I want to do this is how I want to do that, and all that good stuff. And then once I get into my classroom, I kind of like visualize it and see if it is a good and effective way to do however it is that I want to do my routines. So that is one thing that I would say you should really think about doing over the summer, is just really sitting down and taking that time to go through your policies, your procedures, your routines, and all of those critical things that you want your students to learn. Okay, so question number 2 is, in which order do you set up your classroom? So of course, this is my first year in setting up my classroom, and I watched so many videos, asked so many teachers, how do I set up a classroom? The way that I found that was pretty simple for me, if you watch back in my classroom setup vlogs, I basically wanted to do all of the bigger things first and then kind of narrow it down to the little things. So my first thing that I did, not everybody does this, but I painted my walls. So I didn't want to have to be painting around all of my furniture and everything. I wanted to get that done, let the walls dry, so that way I can then start moving to the other big projects. So what I would recommend is doing all of your big things first. So starting to move around all of your furniture, trying to figure out what layout you like, and then start working on where you want your library to be, where you want your teacher desk to be. All of those big pieces of furniture that need a space, I would rearrange that first. Then you can go into where you want your bins to be, where you want student supplies. Are you going to have a student center? Are you going to have like a cool down corner? Like all of those other things that students are going to use throughout the year. Once all of that is done and your space is pretty much laid out, then you can go in and start kind of organizing all of your papers, your manipulatives, all those little things that just need to find a home somewhere. Once that's done, then I would start working on things to display on my wall, whether it's where you want your word wall to be, your student work, if you have a focus wall, any bulletin boards you need to work on. Once all of that is done, then you can just kind of go back and make sure that your layout works with the routines that you put in place, and just make sure everything works for you and you feel comfortable and happy with your space. So question number 3 is, what are your plans for classroom management? I have thought about this for so long, and I have asked so many questions, I've watched so many videos, I've read so many different things, and I just realized that there isn't one plan for classroom management. Everybody has to do whatever it is that works for them. Especially as a first year teacher, I have no idea what that is. I don't know how my students are. I don't know what's gonna work for them, may not work for others. In all honesty, I really don't know. I do have ideas in my head of how I want my classroom management and like behavior reward systems to be. And I will, of course, implement them in the beginning of the year. But if that doesn't work, then reality is I need to figure out something that does work for my students. So one thing that I am thinking about doing is I have tickets that I will be handing out as a small incentive when independent students are doing whatever they need to be doing, and they make me happy. And it's just kind of like a thank you for being on task, thank you for doing your work. However it is, I'm just walking around the classroom and giving them tickets that they can collect. At the end of the week, they can trade in those tickets to get items from the treasure box that I will be putting together. And that's just kind of like an independent behavior system that I plan on using. So I've also started thinking about kind of whole group behavior management systems. And so something that I am probably going to do, I'm not exactly sure how I'm gonna do it yet, but as students, maybe kind of keep like tallies or make a board, something, I'm not sure. But once the whole group reaches a certain amount of points that I have set as the goal, then they can get a whole group incentive. Now these things are gonna be like free things that you really don't have to pay for. So whether it's lunch bunch, whether it's socks day, whether it's a read aloud, or playing with STEM bins for 10 minutes, or whatever it is, just something that I find that the students love and they really want to work towards. Of course, there's different behavior management plans that you have to think about, which is like, are you going to have a one-on-one like behavior chart for a student? Are you going to have your visuals piece, which I am planning on using lots of visuals in my classroom for my students. I just have always found that students learn and respond better when visuals are used. So there's just so many different things that you can use for classroom management that there's just not one thing that is going to work for everything. And that's okay. And you may not have all of the answers going into your first year teaching like me. I have no idea what I'm gonna be doing. I probably won't know until that first day of school when I start something and it may or may not work, and I just have to figure it out from there. And that's okay. I feel like there's this perception that in your first year, you have to have everything set in stone, ready to go. You have to know everything. You have to have the answers to everything. And that is not the case, and that is okay. So my biggest piece of advice is when it comes to classroom management, just find what works for you. What works for you may not work for the teacher next door, and that is okay. So question number 4 is, how do you teach beginning of the year procedures and routines? When I ask this question, because again, I am going into my first year, I've never done this before, and I've asked many people this question, and basically what they say is practice, 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 and lots of modeling. I have seen other teachers do it, and I see that that works. So my plan for teaching beginning of the year routines and procedures is to practice and model as much as I can. Every single time that I have the opportunity to teach a new routine or teach a procedure or correct a procedure routine, I am going to model it, and then we are going to practice it. So if it's how do we come into the classroom in the morning, I will explain it, I will model it, and then we will practice it, and we will continue practicing it until we meet my expectation and make sure it is good to go. What I would also think about when wanting to teach beginning of the year routines and procedures is to kind of make a list of like your big, like I need to teach on day 1, and then think about things that you can teach later in the week, even the following week, things that aren't as important or as big in your classroom. So that is something to also think about when you're wanting to teach beginning of the year routines, is just kind of make a list of what do I need to do now, what needs to get done right on the first day of school, even the first 2 days of school, and what could probably wait until a little bit later. And the last and final question, I think this one is my favorite question, is how do you build relationships with your students? As a first year teacher, I have thought about this all throughout college. They've always said relationships, relationships, relationships. That is the biggest thing for you, the most important thing in your classroom. And I agree with that, because if you do not have relationships with your students, it's going to be so hard to build a connection or even teach them. And they're not going to listen to you because they don't feel that you truly care about them. So one thing that I do think about is, how am I going to teach someone if I don't have a relationship with them? How are they going to listen to me if they don't know who I am or what I believe? So I definitely want to work on building those relationships as soon as I can. And building relationships is kind of like classroom management. There isn't just one technique that works for everyone. Everybody just has to find their own little thing that makes it special and it makes it work for them. So one thing that I am doing, you do not by any means have to do this, that is not what I'm saying at all, but one thing that I am planning on doing is meeting my students over the summer. I am putting together just a small little gift, which I'll have a video coming out with that, but I am putting together a small little, like, I'm so excited to meet you, have a great summer gift, and I want to deliver them personally to each one of my students' houses, of course, if their parents are okay with it, considering everything going on with COVID. I have contacted all of my families, and all of them are pretty much on board. There's just a few where the students are like out of state, or they're not home, or they're going on vacation that week, or whatever it is, but that is totally fine. I told them they can just contact me and tell me a day that works for them, and we will make it happen. So that is my kind of like first step in building that initial foundation of our relationship with my students. Then once the school year starts, I think one big piece to building relationships with your students is listening to them. So if a student comes up to you and they tell you every single day what they had for dinner the night before, take that time to listen to them. They obviously want to come tell you because they love sharing that information with you and they feel that you care about them. So I am going to take that time, like, honey, go ahead and tell me whatever story you want to tell me and I will listen to you. One thing that I do plan on doing in the beginning of the year is having all of my students fill out an interest survey. There's plenty of them on TPT. You can make your own. It's basically just a way for you to get to know your students. So it'll ask like, what's your favorite color? What's your favorite book? What's your favorite candy? It's a questionnaire basically all about them, and they can tell you everything that they want about themselves. So when it comes to building relationships, it is one of my biggest things that I want to do throughout the year, especially in the beginning of the year. So again, it's just one of those things where you just find what works for you. So those are the 5 questions that we had to answer. Again, I answered them in first year teacher perspective, and Shakira will be answering them in second year perspective. So I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope that I kind of helped kind of ease your minds, because I know that the craziness of being a first year teacher, it starts to settle in as we get closer to the year. But let me just tell you, we're going to get through it. We're gonna get through it together, and it's just gonna be amazing. At the end of the day, you just have to always remember the why you started teaching. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and please don't forget to go watch Shakira's part of it. It is going to be at the end of this video. You can just click on the link and it'll take you straight to her video, or I'm gonna put it in the description box down below. And please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, please connect with me on my Instagram. I love sharing and connecting with you guys there daily, and it is at Classroom Sunshine. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.